Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and I'm an attorney that assists physicians with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about quality and productivity incentives for physicians. So if you have a contract that includes some kind of productivity or quality incentive, I'll go through how that's generally structured and then some red flag areas to think about as well. So first, the setting is critically important in this. If you're in private practice in a smaller physician-owned group, any kind of like outpatient-based practice, it's very unlikely you're going to have any kind of quality incentives or bonuses. Quality incentives are almost exclusively at a hospital or perhaps in a healthcare network. But if you are just moving into a smaller physician-owned group, it's very unlikely you're going to see any kind of quality bonuses. Now, what do the quality bonuses mean? Like, what are the components that go into them? This varies, greatly amongst different organizations. Some it can be, charting completion, patient satisfaction, attending your department meetings. For others, it could just be efficiency in your practice, meaning how many patients are you seeing. They'll send out surveys to the patients after the fact to see what your kind of net promoter score is, or they'll add in some kind of like JCO-ish metrics as well. So you need to look into what components go into the quality measures. That way you can kind of know what you have to focus on. How much are quality measures? It generally is around 5 to 10% of what your base salary is, or at least up to 5 to 10%. Rarely does everyone get 100% of the quality bonus. So if you're making $200,000, you'll have somewhere between a $10,000 to $20,000 potential bonus from quality measures. So the one takeaway from this is just, if you do have a quality bonus, ask and get on paper what goes into that bonus so you can focus on those areas. Next, productivity incentives. Now, there's hundreds of ways you could structure a physician contract, and this varies based upon setting as well. So if you are in a physician-owned practice, outpatient, it's very likely any kind of productivity incentives will be based upon collections. So you'll get a percentage of the collections the practice receives based upon your personally performed services. You could have a base salary, and then they would say, all right, on a quarterly basis, we're going to do a reconciliation. Any of the money that you brought in above what we paid out in your base salary, you're going to get 20% of that. That would be a productivity incentive. Or maybe you have a contract that's just exclusively based on collections, and sometimes they'll have thresholds, meaning, if you collect over $1 million, annually, any dollar received over that amount, you'll get an additional, X percent of what it is. If you're working in a hospital or a healthcare network, they don't use collections-based productivity incentives. They'll use RVUs. And so in that matter, they could say, all right, this is your threshold. We expect you to generate 1,500 RVUs in a quarter, and then every RVU generated over that, you'll get $40. That would be kind of a standard productivity incentive. Some things you want to think about. Decreasing the interval is a good idea, meaning if you have an annual reconciliation, that's not ideal because you could leave maybe towards the end of your contract year and miss out on getting the bonus entirely. Many contracts have language that says you have to be employed at the time it's paid out. So if you can shorten that to either monthly or quarterly, then you're going to get, let's say you have a 90-day notice. You give notice that you're going to leave, then you work out the 90 days. Well, you still, if it was a quarterly bonus, you still have 3 bonus payments throughout the year. And it's not kind of an all or nothing scenario where you're not going to receive any bonus at all. As far as negotiating these things, all of the points are generally negotiable, meaning the percentage that you receive, the thresholds that that they utilize, the RVU threshold, the compensation factor for RVUs. These are all negotiable things. Now, if you're with a very large hospital, they generally have standardized amounts based on historical data. So don't be surprised if they just say, no, we're not, these are not negotiable points. We use these system-wide, and they are what they are. So that's a little bit about quality and productivity incentives for physicians. I think it's generally a good idea if you're an employer to provide maybe an additional motivation. And I also think it leads to practice efficiencies as well. When a physician can earn more money based upon how efficient they are, or how many patients they see, or any of that kind of thing, I find it kind of, it's like a top-down, where they're going to push for efficiencies, which ultimately makes the practice stronger as well. All right, if you have any questions about your employment agreement or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the information listed below in the description. And I appreciate you watching the video. All right, thanks. Take care.